the chilling true story of the dating game killer that inspired Anna Kendrick's new Netflix film Woman of the Hour. Anna Kendrick's chilling new film, Woman of the Hour, is based on the harrowing true story of the dating game killer, a man who participated in a dating game show on national television in the midst of his murder spree. In the late 1970s, Rodney Alcala appeared on the popular TV series The Dating Game, and instantly drew viewers in with his charm and charisma. However, unbeknownst to the cast, crew, and audience, the smooth-talking man had secretly murdered and brutally raped multiple women before he participated in the show. For over a decade, Rodney evaded law enforcement and continued killing and assaulting both women and children. And by the time he was finally sent to prison in 2010, it was believed that he had up to 130 victims. Now, the horrific events are set to be retold in the upcoming Netflix movie Woman of the Hour, which will premiere on the streaming service on October 18th. The film, which on top of starring Anna, aged 39, will also serve as her directorial debut, follows an aspiring actress who crosses paths with a prolific serial killer in 70s LA when they're cast on an episode of The Dating Game. Per its description, Rodney's first recorded crime was in 1968, when a stranger called the police after they witnessed him luring an 8-year-old girl named Taylor Shapiro into his Hollywood apartment. When law enforcement arrived, they found the little girl laying in a pool of her own blood. She had been beaten and raped with a metal bar and spent 32 days in a coma due to the injuries. But Rodney had already fled by the time they got there. He immediately went on the run, changing his name and moving to the East Coast, where he landed a job at a New Hampshire children's camp as a counselor. In 1971, his secret was exposed after the FBI added him to its list of 10 most wanted fugitives, and some of his campers noticed his picture on the wall in the post office. He was ultimately arrested and convicted of child molestation, but only spent 17 months in prison before he was released on parole. Months after he was back on the street, he struck again, this time assaulting a 13-year-old girl after he offered her a ride to school. This crime landed him back behind bars for another 2 years, but by 1976, he was free once more. After that, Rodney moved back to Los Angeles, where he touted himself as a professional fashion photographer, while secretly committing a string of gruesome murders. It's been said that he lured his victims into his home by inviting them to pose for his portfolio. He would then strangle them until they passed out, and when they would reawaken, he would torture, rape, and ultimately kill them before firing their limbs into explicit positions and photographing their naked dead bodies. In 1978, he participated in The Dating Game, during which he competed for a chance to go out with that episode's baccalaureate, Cheryl Bradshaw, and won. 1 year later, Rodney was arrested for the murder of a 12-year-old girl named Robin Christine Samso, who had been found beaten, raped, and stabbed to death near her home in Huntington Beach, California. Her friends told law enforcement that a stranger had approached them on the beach before she vanished and asked to take photos of them. This crime landed him back behind bars for another 2 years, but by 1976, he was free once more. After that, Rodney moved back to Los Angeles, where he touted himself as a professional fashion photographer, while secretly committing a string of gruesome murders. It's been said that he lured his victims into his home by inviting them to pose for his portfolio. He would then strangle them until they passed out, and when they would reawaken, he would torture, rape, and ultimately kill them before firing their limbs into explicit positions and photographing their naked dead bodies. In 2003, in the midst of his third trial, prosecutor Matt Murphy decided to re-examine evidence that had been found in a storage locker owned by Rodney years prior. He made a shocking discovery: DNA that linked Rodney to 4 other murders that had occurred in the 1970s. In 2010, over 3 decades after his initial arrest, an Orange County jury convicted Rodney on 5 counts of first-degree murder, for which he was sentenced to death. He was given another 25 years in 2013 after he pled guilty to 2 more murders, and was charged again in 2016 after DNA evidence connected him to the 1977 death of a 28-year-old woman. While the exact number of people he killed is unknown, the Associated Press has reported that he may have murdered up to 130 people across the country. He died in 2021, At age 77, from unspecified natural causes while on death row.